Hey guys, Luxker here. This video is going to be a pretty special video because we're going to be doing a tier list. It's going to be about the Xenoblade areas in all 4 Xenoblade games, from Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade X, Xenoblade 2, and Xenoblade 3. And I'm joined today by a very special guest. His name is Yggdrasil, and he'll be helping me go through this tier list one by one. Say hi, Yggdrasil!
Hey everyone, it's Yggdrasil and welcome to this video. That's right, I am joining Mr. Luxker on this video as we tackle a tier list of our favorite and not so favorite zones from all 4 of the main Xenoblade games.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun time. I know we're both Xenoblade 1 fans, but I think it's going to be pretty interesting because there's some areas in Xenoblade 1 that I'm just not a fan of, but like, there's a lot of other areas in the other games that I'm a pretty big fan of as well, why don't you say?
Yeah, I got some biases as well, but we'll just see how it lands. I think between the two of us, we'll figure out something pretty well. Alright, shall we get started?
Yes, let's get started. So, our first area is gonna be the Asia region. Now, I think the Asia region, I'll be honest, isn't really a great area in Xenoblade 3. Milk Meadows is extremely short for the beginning area, and like the rest of the area is just kind of meh. And it also has Capricorn Peak, which is regarded by a lot of people to be their least favorite ice area in Xenoblade. So I'm gonna just say it's gonna be our first C tier area. Why don't you think, Yggdrasil?
Already starting at C, huh? Yeah, you know, I think that's sort of fair, you know? I can appreciate the starting bits of that area in terms of, you know, the story. It did a good startup for that story. It felt almost a little too linear, that first experience with Milk Meadows, and the same thing with Capricorn especially. My big problem with Capricorn is always there just wasn't enough of it, but I agree on that. It was an okay starting experience, but I never really found myself like interested in purposely going back to that region.
It's just incredibly short and linear, and like even with the callbacks with like Gar Plains and the pedestals and whatnot, it just felt like there wasn't really enough there to draw me in. There's not a lot of interesting things going on. Really, all that is there is just like a waterfall and like a giant desolate area and just Capricorn Peak. I guess you can say.
Yeah.
I guess you can say the Cloud Keep is part of the Asia region. Why don't you think? It was pretty cool.
No.
I'd say the Cloud Keep was probably the best area out of that region, but in general, it's just kind of meh. I'll be perfectly honest.
No, I'd argue that too. The same thing like you're saying. It's like, you know, we had those expectations with Gar Plains, and then game comes out, and Milk Meadows is barely a fraction of that, in my opinion.
Right. And now let's go on to Gniratha, which I'll be perfectly honest. Gniratha is probably gonna be easy A tier for me. I think Gniratha, it's kind of confusing for a lot of people to navigate around because a lot of places look the same, but I just like just going through it. It's just like really enticing to me, like the giant Manus shrine in the middle of it all. And like, just like the devastation of Gniratha to me, just really brilliantly done for the Mechonis capital in general.
No, I can definitely agree to that. A for Gniratha 100%, because in my mind, I always think of the journey or the story and the motif when we consider zones and whatnot. So shout out to Definitive Edition, because it made Gniratha in my mind a little less jarring to look at, you know, as it did with many other zones. But, you know, again, it's like in that journey sense, you know, we come across the Mechonis field, then we come across Central Factory, and then we go up, and then the home base of the leader of the Mechon, it's just ruins and disarray, you know?
Yeah, and just seeing like the Telethia just strewn about that place just feels so desolate, and it just makes me sad a little bit just going through it all. I think the music even encapsulates it really well, so...
Absolutely does.
Yes. And also some pretty great fights in there as well. So overall, Agniratha is just a general A tier. Now let's head to Agnes Castle region, which, if you haven't played Xenoblade 3 in a while, Yig, but the Agnes Castle region is just this one tiny area, and...
Yeah. I'm gonna...
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest, it's gonna be, like, in D tier. I'm sorry, Nia fans, but, like, it's just way too small for an area, and there's not much going on. Really,
I think it's fair to call it D. It is just the one essential large room, and then I will give it props. The NPCs they put there refresh a fair bit, keeping it a little bit consistent. But you don't really have that much rhyme or reason to keep going back to there. So I agree. Its only strong suit is that it was the perfect stage for everything that happened between end of chapter 5, start of chapter 6. But once that's done, and when you can actually start exploring that area, it's just that tiny bit.
I'll be perfectly honest, so I'm just gonna put it in C tier now that you said that about stuff about the chapter 5 and chapter 6 area.
Okay, we'll give it some props for carrying in terms of the story just for a bit. Because that is sort of our backscape for about an hour or so of just everything, yeah.
And now let's go to Alcamoth. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I may be biased, but Alcamoth is an easy S tier for me. I think Alcamoth is a very strong area. It's so expansive, and like it's so well lived in. Even though we don't like see actual houses in there, the fact that like the Hyantia just phase in and out from these little portals. We know that they live somewhere in this huge area. Maybe they live in the ether, or they like live inside Alcamoth itself. Like, it's pretty expansive, and like it's a really pretty area as well. And it's pretty fitting, just pretty much the whole like core of Bionis in general. So
yeah, no, I think Alcamoth is definitely again S, or like the highest point of A, if not, I agree with you, S. But again, on my part, the expansiveness plays slightly to a detriment of it. It makes sense in the scope of what eventually happens with Alcamoth, and I'll forever, praise the boldness of the decision to turn Alcamoth into this sort of apocalyptic hellscape almost after the events of Mechonis Gore. It's everything Alcamoth goes through and then represents after the fact that makes that zone so memorable to me. So yeah, I'm gonna go and agree with you, S tier.
Yeah, it will probably be a low S just to be perfectly safe, but like because I'm kind of a little bit biased, but like I just feel that way. Like, there's just so much lore with the Hyantia just embedded in Alcamoth itself. I mean, it's just such a nice, expansive area, and they even have their own freaking, like, way to protect themselves with rain. It especially looks great in rain, and, like, even, like, at night, where it's, like, they're shooting stars all the time there. It's really nice, like, just, like, the Hyantia just being contained in this one area. So Argentum Trade Guild, I would say it's a pretty decent area for Xenoblade 2 standards. It's where we start at the beginning of the game, and there's, like, a lot of stuff to actually do there. It's just a big old merchant shop, and, like, Bana runs the whole thing until, like, a certain side quest later in the game where he's just on a hamster wheel. But, like... a lot of side quests, like especially some blade quests, take a lot of advantage of Argentum Trade Guild's area. Like, I can think of a lot of blade quests that are memorable to me just taking place in Argentum Trade Guild. I'm a really big fan of Xenoblade 2 Chapter 1 especially, and Argentum Trade Guild really is a strong beginning because of that. I would probably even put it up at low A tier, but low, like high B tier is probably a great choice.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you and place it. I think we should place it in the high B tier. I'm with you 100%. I think it's a great starting zone. I think a lot of people have a distaste for it because they associate it with the poor tutorialization, and some people don't enjoy the start of 2. And I think they overlap that onto Argentum for some reason. But I agree, there's quite a lot of quests. It's a very nice zone with some moderate changes as you go through it and you start seeing some things. A lot of blades have unique quests there. I think of Shiva's storage room. I think of Boreas, and I think of oh my goodness, Ursula's new groove starting there as well. You know, there's quite a few things that really go on through Argentum, and it's nice seeing it get so much use for a zone that has only a few crust-ups to fight. But yeah, I agree. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I just remember Argentum Trade Guild because of how many Blade quests there are and how many memories it brought as well. And you also forgot Finch, right? Like, one of Finch's best scenes is in Argentum Trade Guild as well, and I quite enjoyed it too.
Finch, Zenobia's up there too.
Yeah, Zenobia's quest, that's true. Like, just a lot of, like, memorable moments, even for, like, outside of the Xenoblade fandom, just take place in Argentum Trade Guild. So I really think it's a solid high B tier. So
yeah.
Right. And next up is Aurora Shelf. Now, Aurora Shelf is kind of like a more condensed Gormott to me, but I personally think it's a really good area to just be starting out with in the DLC. Like, I really enjoyed, like, even at night with the Sophronia tree in there, but, like, you put Exile Fortress, as well as, like, having multiple elevations, including, like, Colony 9 area and the...
And
like,
Grandel.
And Grandel, especially, and the Gar Plains Bridge. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. Maybe I'll put it in post, but, it's just a huge area. Oh, yeah. King Agnes tomb there. It's like got a lot of memorable locations, and I feel like Aurora Shelf is just like the most fitting place to have for Xenoblade 3, and it expresses its themes very well. More so than the Asia region would ever be.
You know, I think thinking back on it, the only thing I have to say is Colony 9's area is in a zone called Yesterdale, or what was it called, New Yesterdale or something like that. Which I don't think is covered in this tier maker, but we'll go ahead and we'll pair it all along anyway. I think that's fine. I would argue, I know it's a little probably too early for another S tier, but I would say Aurora Shelf really encompasses the best of Xenoblade Chronicles zones. I would immediately place this in S. For everything that you've stated, for all that it represents, this is the trend that Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed has. It's all of the zones are beautifully condensed, a lot of things for fans who've played the previous games to look at, a lot of nostalgia factor, which, you know, I pick up on immediately. But all of these zones combined aesthetic, gameplay, music, there's platforming in Redeemed. My goodness, no, they did this super well. They did Aurora Shelf wonderfully. I have to say, definitely an S contender for me.
Oh yeah, I'd say it's a high A tier, but like, yeah, that's actually kind of a good point. I'll be honest. It has a lot of encompassing stuff from pretty much any Xenoblade area, and it was just all put into just Aurora Shelf in general. So I can definitely agree to that. Yeah, I'd say probably like low S, probably high A tier. I think I'm just going to keep this in A tier for a little bit. A for Aurora Shelf, so we'll just see later on, though.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Anyways, let's go to an area that like a lot of people just don't like in general, and that's the Bionis Interior. It's regarded as like one of the most least interesting areas in Xenoblade 1. There's the music isn't the best. The like going through it is just such a chore to get through because like there's not a lot of fast travel points. And if you fall down, you have to start from your last fast travel point. The enemies are really annoying. The freaking black liver bean is in that, which is pretty infinite. It's a pretty infamous collectible. The fight with Lord Thea at the end is highly regarded as not a very great fight in general, as well as Lord Thea as well. Like, Lord Thea's definitely not like a great character, so I would say D tier for Bionis Interior. So
yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Bionis Interior is more than welcome to be our first D tier. Is it sad that I've partly enjoyed Lorothea's design? At least it looked better and definitive. But yeah, character wise, definitely just the I'm here to be a pretty obvious two-faced antagonist. I'm nice when I need to be, and then let my colors fly when I'm by myself or when the time's right, kind of deal. That's it. Very, very using. As for Bionis Interior itself, I actually made this in a post a few days ago where I compared Ether Mines with Bionis Interior because they're relatively linear grind spots, but unlike Ether Mines, you're going through some lit up caves and excavation areas, eventually leading into underground training facility. Then you're led into the mines itself, and the mines, it's teeming. This is a dangerous spot. The Mechon are everywhere, and you're just going down bit by bit, grinding along the way. Bionis Interior, the music always has felt unsettling to me, and I get that. It's meant to be an unsettling zone, the heartbeat of Bionis as you just walk along by, but you're stuck with a giant room that's just acid, like ether acid, and the mobs unsettling. Black Liver being slightly more tolerable to find and definitive thanks to its features, but I still remember the trauma of some 30 plus hours back on the base game of just trying to find this goddamn Black Liver being back on the Wii.
Yeah, it's just
Not a fun
I would
time.
compare Bionis Interior to like a Xenogears dungeon in terms of its quality. Like, I know you haven't played Xenogears, Yig, but there's some pretty iffy dungeons in that game, and I like to compare Bionis Interior to like the final area in Xenogears, but I won't like get into that because we're not talking about Xenogears, we're talking about Xenoblade. So let's get on to the next area, which is Bionis Leg. I'll be honest though, Bionis Leg, I would say it's probably like a mid-B tier area. Gar Plains is a great theme. It's a great area just to explore and just to see everything. But I'll be honest, it's kind of the place that Xenoblade is really known for in terms of like just keeping that same grassy area and just doing so very well with it. But I think other areas like it I think they're much better in this tier list. What do you think, Yig?
I would probably actually place it on the lowest end of A because it's just iconic and central. And as you're saying, it really set up apart for all the future Xenoblade titles to have these nice grassy expansive plains, Milik Meadows notwithstanding, but it's just iconic because I go back and I think about my first time playing Xenoblade Chronicles again on the Wii, fresh off of its release, and just you spend so long in Tephra Cave and you're already pretty interested after seeing Colony 9, and then they just hit you with Gar Plains, and you can explore all of it. You can walk around all of it. You can see all the unique mobs, see how the nighttime changes things up. I know a lot of people joke about a lot of Xenoblade Chronicles zones as being walking simulator, but to ignore the grandeur of Gar Plains is to really be dismissive of the open air element that a lot of developers try to play for. A moments of silence with you exploring and just taking in the vast wilderness. Like that's why I want to rate this a little bit higher. I'd say low A.
You're totally right, Yggdrasil. It's an area that, like, is pretty unprecedented for its time, especially. Just for it being an open environment, but just being an enclosed area. And there's some interesting landmarks as well. Like, there's a ton of waterfalls in there. There's even the iconic Ragwell Bridge. I think that's what it's called, Ragwell Bridge.
Ragwell Bridge, all the guideposts.
Yeah, for sure. Like, there's a lot of iconic areas, so I guess I can just put it in low A. I think you're right.
I think it did get screwed by the bulk of Gar Plains this time, being screwed by Juju Arc.
Oh, for sure, and it just leaves a negative impression. So
yeah,
I can totally believe that. So let's go on to Bionis Shoulder, which I don't know about you, but like Bionis Shoulder, is like pretty big, and it encompasses pretty much a future connected. And I'll have to
Yeah, because
say,
it's only that and Alcamoth again. Yeah.
yeah, I'll have to say, I'm gonna put that above Gar Plain. I think it's one of the better grassy areas that pretty much encompasses the greatness of Future Connected in its core. It was originally an unused area, and people wanted to explore it on their own in a new fashion. And here we go. Here we are with it, and it's pretty spectacular in general. I'd say maybe I'll just put it above Agnirtha in A tier, because personally I feel like I don't want to say I'm biased because of the of Future Connected having Melia stuff, but like you do like so much through it, like even within the 10-hour like time span that Future Connected has. It fits this area in with so much stuff, like a lot of side quests, the 12 Napapon that are in it, just trying to find them all. It's like a nice area to explore, and like the landmarks there are pretty evocative of Xenoblade Definitive Edition in general. I really enjoy this, and like oh yeah, and there's like more like multiple levels as well. And you like there's caves and stuff just going through it all, and there's like no loading zone in there either. I'd say it's one of the better like areas in Xenoblade in general.
I definitely agree with you there. Definitely above Agniratha in that respect. So I think it was fair to say it's the top of A, 100%. I'm in the same boat as you. It's just generally a better Gar Plains, but it's really well contained, more things to do, side quests play off of it, and also, a lot of those side quests, when they were thinking of Future Connected, they were thinking beyond just typical Xenoblade 1 quests. They wanted to try and make things a bit more memorable. They got a bit of a hang for it with Xenoblade 2's side quests, and it showed in Future Connected that they wanted to make those changes. So I think they handled that zone, the Bionis Shoulder, really well. Especially, again, I look back at the unused files on the Wii, and I see that early concept art or that early concept design on those 480p YouTube videos years and years ago on the first ideas, and then to see what it turned into in Future Connected. The original, it looked like Napon ruins almost.
Yeah,
but it ends up, I assume they turned that into Grandel. So
that turned into Grandel afterwards, which has Napon in it, but it's mostly like we obviously know, a variation of multiple races, which I really do enjoy. It's such a nice area that in Xenoblade 1, just in general. So I really appreciate Bionis Shoulder because of that. So,
yep.
Anyways, let's go ahead and go on to the Black Mountains. Like, I know a lot of people had some great first impressions of the Black Mountains. I'll be honest though, low B tier for me. I'd say there's better snowy areas, and Capricorn Peak is definitely like on the low end. But I'd say like Black Mountains is probably like on the verge of being like high B tier. Not so sure about being above our Argenum Trade Guild, but just being an area where it's just you go up a mountain and onto Prison Island. And even though it's a great area just because of that, I still think that maybe there could have been a little bit more to differentiate itself. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But I just feel like we're just going from like one area, and there's a bunch of like raids stuff is going on there as well. I just feel like it's a little bit convoluted to get through, and I know it does include like Valak Mountain and like Tantal stuff just kind of combined into it, and like has some familiar landmarks with it as well. I just don't think it's like I don't think it's just a good area just to explore on its own, really.
I would have been more interested in the zone had there been more information on giants or more information on dragons, because we got those 3 dragons on the Black Mountain, and I'm just like, ooh, dragons. But then I remember Xenoblade Chronicles 3 just throws in beating of dragons for Ouroboros exposition, and I get a little sad because when I think of Dragon King Alcar, now Dragon God Alcar, and there's no context for it, I'm just like, oh, come on, this is missed opportunities right here. Definitely better than Capricorn, 100%. I think it makes the most of Valak Mountain, and it makes the most of Tantal's design. It keeps it in a fairly constricted linear fashion with platforming, which I found really nice. It definitely picks up more towards the end of it than at the beginning. But yeah, I would argue high B to low A. We'll keep it in B tier for right now, though.
Yeah, I would say it's high B as well. B for Black Mountain. I feel like it's just Black Mountains, and like it's better than Cadetia and really nothing else. But the song that plays there rocks, though. I really enjoy.
Music's beautiful, yeah. I would have liked to have seen more about Prison Island, especially how it was integrated. It looked nice. I just would have liked to have seen more about it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That was one of my biggest disappointments, is we didn't hear or know more Prison Island, more Giants lore, more anything lore. But
I mean, that's
it makes sense.
Evocative of Xenoblade 3 in general, but we can talk about that another time. It's not
For
part of the
sure.
tier list, though. So, and the next one is the Cadetia region. Now, even though the image says Erythea Sea, I'm just gonna lump the whole Cadetia region in there. And I'll be perfectly honest, very great region. I would say it would be probably that's tough, actually.
You want to argue it is the best region for Xenoblade 3?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that. I would say the Cadetia region as a whole is S tier region. It's probably the best water. It's the best water area in Xenoblade 3, and it just encapsulates a really underused portion of Xenoblade 3 with the boat mechanic. Having to go around to island, like Wind Waker style, is really nice. It also encapsulates parts of Sword March in general. But yeah, I really enjoy exploring everywhere, and like it's one of the more like brighter and more colorful areas of Xenoblade 3. And it also includes like the bottom of the Agnes Castle region, which includes the prison.
The Yggdrasil prison. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it also includes Hope's Rest as well, which was the original like location for the city. Which, man, that part really got to me a little bit. It also, I don't know if you know about this, Yggdrasil, but there's actually a way to get out of bounds in the Cadetia region. Did you know about that?
I think I've seen that. I've seen a few out of bounds videos. I'm trying to remember the one for Cadencia itself.
So by Hope's Rest, there's like an area of rocks where you just jump up to, and like you can just hop over the boundary once you get all the way to the top in like a certain fashion. And and
then you can just go all the way down.
Yep, and I've taken a lot of screenshots over there. I don't know if you've seen stuff on my Twitter lately, but basically a lot of my screenshots from there came from that out of bounds portion of the Cadencia region, and I find that to be really awesome. A way for us to just not just get out of the boundaries and just to explore everywhere, especially in the Cadencia region, is really great. It's really solid. And also the Cadencia region also includes the Lost Colony, and as well as Colony Mew as well, which are some of my favorite colonies in the entire game, just because of their lore aspect, and like the Lost Colony is is just pretty in general. I say Cadencia region is just a fantastic area in general. So.
I think the only things I'm going to add to that is I just wish the start of it, that zone around Sword March itself, was a little bit bigger. It's the same aspect as with a lot of other zones in Xenoblade 3. You feel like a sort of linearity because, all of the world is a giant circle, so you feel like trapped in that circle just a little bit. But I'm gonna agree with you wholeheartedly on it. I think it's a very beautiful zone. Finally, we can explore on a boat, and it was all pretty fun. And I definitely agree. I would rate Colony Mew in particular as one of my favorite colonies and more distinguished colonies too. And that plays into the strengths of the zone. Ligarta Prison was gruelingly beautiful, if I had to say. If I know it's like a weird pairing of words, but that was the case.
Lagarte area also has Colony Zero as well, and its entire side quest chain is really good too, and it really encapsulates just that side quest chain in general. I'll just go on a tangent. It's extremely good because of how much representation it has with Xenoblade 3 as a whole, and it all takes place in a freaking prison. Just think about that for a second.
Yeah.
We can all agree that Cadetia is an easy S tier for all of us.
Lower. I would argue lower than Aurora Shelf, but still a strong S.
Now we're going to Calderis, which I'll be honest though, I haven't played Xenoblade X. I've only seen like footage of it, but Calderis is just like really shockingly like beautiful in its representation of just how drab and dark it is, and like how desolate feeling the whole place is from just what I'm seeing right here. What do you think?
I've played through Xenoblade X. I've played through it twice over, and for whatever reason, Calderis, maybe it's because it's the farthest away from NLA, but Calderis is the region I spent the least amount of time in. That being said, very beautiful zone, makes use of this sort of dark obsidian glow around it, the lava fuming, the mobs around it, fantastic designs, and just I do have to be honest, it's a wonderful zone to try and explore. It surprises me. Xenoblade X zones are very strong contenders overall because their zones are so expansive, so beautiful to explore. And one of Xenoblade X's core themes is exploration. That being said, I would argue Calderis is probably not my favorite of the X zones, and just for that, I'm gonna have to settle. Let's put it at the bottom of B for right now, the very bottom of B.
I would say that as well, just from that alone. I'd say the other regions, which we'll get to later, are pretty great in general. But like Calderis, it's pretty great, but you just don't spend a lot of time in there. So, all right, everybody. I think that's the end of part 1. I noticed that these tier lists have gotten pretty long, so I'm thinking about splitting it into 4 parts. Just for simplicity's sake, you can just cut to which part you want to see. But if you want to view the whole entire list, I'm going to make this into a big old 2-hour podcast version. I'm going to be putting it on another channel coming next month, so look forward to that. Otherwise, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to be notified on when part 2 is going to come out, which is going to be coming out the next week after. But yeah, go ahead and check out Yggdrasil's content. He does a lot of Xeno series videos, and he recently put out a video on the release date on the Noah and Neo amiibos. He's very active on YouTube, and I highly recommend checking out his channel. Until then, guys, see you on the other side!